Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's WEConnect International webinar. My name is Mandie. I'm the Executive Director for WEConnect International here in Europe, and I'm delighted that you've joined us for today's webinar, How Saying No Can Positively Impact Your Business Success. Our presenter today is Mandie Holgate. She's a business and life coach, an international best-selling author of Fight the Fear. She's a speaker and blogger and founder of the Business Women's Network. In today's session, we will learn about why saying no is good for your success and how it can make you more focused, less stressed, more productive, and even increase profitability. It sounds great. To keep background noise to minimum, participants will all be on mute, so please do use the chat functionality to ask any questions that you might have, and there will be time for discussion and questions at the end. Mandie's probably going to talk for about 40 to 45 minutes. The session is being recorded, so you will be able to listen back to it again. So Mandie, thank you so much for presenting for us today. It's over to you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, so thanks for joining me. It's a real pleasure to be speaking for you today. We are going to run for approximately an hour and traditionally the questions are at the end, but if something comes up and you really want to know an answer to it, please add it at the time of thought and we will get those thoughts included as we go as well. I'm more than happy to get interrupted. It's not a problem. This is all about giving the best possible results to you around this subject. So let's get straight into this. And let's start with the rules. This is where Maggie panics because I've not pressed the button. Let's get straight into the rules. So the first thing is really important about anything that I do, be it on a stage with hundreds of people or in a small group or on a webinar, is that we have some rules. And I'm not really keen on rules, so that makes a nice change to have some. The rules are very simple. There is no such thing as a stupid question. If there is something that you want to ask me at any time, please feel free to add it here in the comments and we will make sure it's answered. In my experience, it's the tiny little things that tend to spark the really big eureka moments. So whatever you're thinking, I don't get it, I don't understand, I don't know how that would work for me, please feel free to say anything. This is a confidential environment. I'm going to treat it just as I would in a coaching session. What we discuss here stays here. It's just for us, which makes it more powerful. There's no guilt, there's no judgment. It's just about you getting the very best out of this subject that we possibly can get for you. So if you want, you can also use the little saying that I've used with lots of people is, I have a friend that has this situation, and then you can still get the answers that you might need for your friend. So let's get straight into this with, how do I spot the signs that I'm saying yes to everything? How do you spot the signs that you are saying no, not enough? Okay, so some of the things that I see with really professional, successful business women are listed here. So the first we have is we feel under too much pressure. We feel like we're going in 1,000 directions. I quite often hear people saying to me that they feel like they've got a ton of plates spinning in the air and at any moment, Mandie, I am going to drop something and I don't know what that's going to be, but it's just too much is going on. We're at risk of burnout. So burnout, feeling guilty, depression, all three of these are about our mental well-being. While we know that to be successful in business, we need to look after our brains and our minds, quite often one of the things that gets kind of shoved to the side when we're mega busy is looking after ourselves mentally. And when we get burnt out, we are unable to process things properly. We are unable to think straight. We're not sleeping well. We're taking the wrong decisions, and we're probably not getting on very well with those that we love and respect and would like to be spending our time with. The other thing I see is when we don't say no enough, people say to me, social life? What's a social life? I haven't had one of those in years. You know, we constantly say no to the things that we'd love to go out, but we've got to get this done, and that's not been done, and this hasn't been done. So another sign that you're just not saying no enough is that you don't have a social life. You don't have me time. If you don't have time to just sit down and read a book for 10 minutes, go and walk the dog for 10 minutes, just get outside and walk around the block so you're just not engulfed in the work environment 24/7. These are signs that you're not saying no enough. Poor lifestyle choices. I hear this a lot. I hear people saying that I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to cook a meal for scratch. I don't have the energy to cook a meal for scratch. It's easier to sit down with a bowl of popcorn and a glass of wine. I also hear people saying that they are arguing with loved ones, and quite often one of the reasons we end up arguing with the ones we love the most is because there is some aspect of our life where we've not been saying no to. So they're all very much about the personal impact. As we know that the personal life greatly impacts on our professional life, and they really are so intrinsically linked. And when we can really understand how one impacts on the other, we can have a far greater impact at work and at home, which is always brilliant. Another sign that you are just not saying no enough is by the end of the day, you know you have that list of jobs to do. Yeah, well, there's those list of jobs, there's tasks that get moved to the next day. That is a sure sign that you are not saying no enough. That the easy jobs get done and the tough things, I'll put that at the top of tomorrow's to-do list, because then that way I'll get it done. If you're struggling to manage your team, that is a very good sign that you're not saying no enough. And we're going to look at how that works, how that impacts on us, how it impacts on our leadership skills, how it impacts on our team's ability to grow, and ultimately the company's ability to grow because you're not able to cope with your team in an appropriate way. Not saying no enough, I often see it described as procrastination. I know I've got a mountain of things to do, but I'm not taking the actions I need to. Why is this? Why am I procrastinating? And I know it's got to be done by 5 o'clock, so why am I on Facebook? What the heck's going on? Procrastination is a good sign that you're not saying no in areas of your business and personal life that you need. And one of my favourites that I hear so often is, Mandie, there just isn't enough hours in the day. What I will do throughout this webinar is I will share some personal stories from clients very confidentially, and I have their permission where I've done this. A great example of not enough hours in the day was a client I worked with a couple of months ago who said to me, she started actually by saying there's too much pressure. I'm spinning too many plates and I'm going to drop one. And we looked at this and I said, well, come on then. What if we had how would you have enough hours a day? And she said, well, if I had 10 days in a working week, I reckon I could get it all done. And what we did was I enabled them to play with this, and we explored it and how would they fill those 10 days and what would get done and what would it mean. And they got really excited. They thought, I could get so much done if I had to double the time. But then in actual fact, what we discovered that underlying everything was that they just didn't say no to the things that were impacting on their successful career. And it didn't matter if she had 5 days, 10 days, or 20 days in a working week, they were still saying yes too many times and not saying no enough. So I hope that gives you a little insight. If you have some other examples, so true, Mandie, we seem to glorify being busy. Oh my gosh, that is a pet hate. You walk into an event, you walk up to somebody, how are you? I'm busy. That is not a definition of success. And yet it's one I hear so often. I often say to people, it's all very well being busy, but it's almost like some badge of honour. Have you had lunch today? No, I haven't had lunch. Well, you're not fooling anyone. Learn to say no, turn the phone off and say, do you know what? This is my 20 minutes. I posted a quick survey yesterday. Who feels they need to fight on and who has a 20-minute break? Very interesting study so far. I'm somebody that has a lot of serious health conditions, and yet I've achieved amazing things because I've learned the power of saying no. Recently, a friend said to me, as we were finishing a conversation, okay, love, have an easy day, and made me realise we never say that. This is incredibly true. If you find yourself saying, how are you? I'm busy, thanks. That's not a definition of success. And to be perfectly honest, this attitude that we've got to be brave and tell everyone everything's perfect is pretty ridiculous. We're kind of making this unrealistic pedestal that we expect everyone else to jump on board. So if we can turn around and say, actually, I'd love to do this. However, on this occasion, I'm going to have to say no. And we're going to look at why we don't do that and how we can learn to be able to comfortably and confidently say that word. Most of the time, you don't even have to say that word. So yes, look out for the words I'm busy, because busy doesn't mean I'm successful. I've got dream clients. I've got a massive profit margin and we are going to be able to grow this business exactly the way I like and I have the time to do what I want. So be really cautious. And this is what the first slide is about. It's about being more aware of what's going wrong in our lives. And quite often, that's why I said at the start, that it's the small things that usually point out to us there's a big issue here that we have to deal with. And so feel free to comment as much as you like, and I will jump in and comment as well. So why do we say yes so often? There are a ton of reasons, of which all of them are covered in my book, Fight the Fear, which looks at 12 biggest fears that impact on our success. Very interestingly, I often get really successful people saying to me, I have no fear. And you know what? It's normally one of these that is hiding. We all have fears. There isn't a person on this planet that doesn't have fears. It's just about the way we handle them, how we acknowledge them, how we respect them, and how we get them under control, so that actually a fear is a good thing and it motivates us forward to get the results we want. So why do we say yes so often? We want to look like a team member. The thing about saying no is it has meanings to us, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. But we want to look like a team member. If I turn around to you and say, and if you come up to me and say, oh, man, can you just do this today? And I go, no, the instant thought is, well, what does she now think of me? Does she think I'm not a team player? Does she think I've got too much on, I'm too busy and I don't know how to cope? And that's the thing. We want to look capable. We're worried when we say no. Does somebody think I'm not capable here? Does somebody think I'm not going to do a good job? We want to look successful, that we can do it all. Here's the thing, no one can do it all. And again, it's that thing about being honest and being able to say yes to things we want to and say no to things that are just really going to kill us off. And so we often say yes when we want to look like, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And we're going to talk about why that is so damaging and how to fix it. Another reason we often say yes to business owners is because we want that new business and we want those new opportunities. And we're so frightened of missing out on, is that the big opportunity? We hear so many amazing stories of how Richard Branson got his big break and how she got her big break and how they did it and how they did it. And we're so worried that we're going to miss out on an opportunity that we always say, yes, I have to say yes to new business. Here's the thing, saying yes to all business means you could be missing out on the really good business. You know, you cannot work for everybody unless you've got a pretty amazing team. So we want to miss out. We don't want to miss out on the big opportunities. We want to gain those sales. Ultimately, we're in business because we want to make a difference. We want to change the world. We want people buying. We want a certain lifestyle. So that's why we keep saying yes. We say yes because yes is a success word. It means we're going to get there. And yes, 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 I have to say yes. Wasn't there a film about always saying yes to everything? It can get us in a lot of trouble. And that's the last thing, is we don't want to miss out. By saying no to something, it's that, what could I have been missing out on there? Who could have been at that event that I'm not going to get to be with because I've said no? So be really cautious. Become more aware of why you are saying yes to things. There is nothing wrong with saying yes. There's nothing wrong with saying no. But it's about understanding when to say which and understanding how it impacts on you when you say yes all the time. So here's some of the benefits of saying no. I'm going to have a quick sip of water. You get through a lot more words when you do a webinar than a speaking engagement in front of 200 people. So the benefits of saying no. When you say no to everybody's everything, you have great time management. Despite having serious illnesses, I've achieved some amazing things in my company, and I've been able to teach those time management skills to lots of other people. Because good time management means you get everything done, and you still are able to say yes to the things that matter to you. But we're going to look at, it's very well knowing why to say no and why to say yes, but it's another thing to actually get on and do it. And that's going to be the important point. But to do that, we need to lay down the foundations of the benefits of this. So it's great for time management, and it really is enabling you to say, actually, this doesn't fit with what I need to get done this week, so I'm really sorry, but no, this is going to happen. It helps us stay on track to achieve our own goals. When we say yes to everything, we end up looking all around us and we're not laser focused on the things that we need. And we're going to look more about that in a moment. Helps us achieve more. It helps us stay focused. Saying no means we don't get deviated by what everyone else deems as more important than what we were doing. This is a really important one. I kind of feel like I want lights and banners on this one. Saying no builds confidence. It's a really tough one. I'm often asked, Mandie, what's the quickest way to build confidence? And we're going to touch on some of those things today. But by learning to say no in a confident way, even if you don't feel it, with the right skills, that builds confidence. It gives you that ability to say, yeah, I'm on my path. I'm doing what I want to do, and I know why I'm doing this. That's a great idea, but right now this doesn't work for us. And that then boosts your confidence further. So it is at the start, when you have a lack of confidence in saying no, it's about having the right skills in place and then going for it. But that it really does build confidence, and it's an amazing thing to see happen, because you watch companies grow sometimes magically before your eyes. It helps you stay accountable to your business values and not get caught up in what other people deem as the important aspects, the vision, the mission. You're able to concentrate on what matters to you and your company. You get to work with the people who appreciate you, and this is so important, learning how to say no to the people that maybe, it could be a good opportunity, but in actual fact, they're not beneficial to us. It's not the direction we want to go in. This is an amazing opportunity. I have seen this work so well for people where they are able to turn around and say, I'm really sorry, but this isn't going to work for me. It means you create the space to work with the people that are just epic to work with. They're respectful of you. They're respectful of your time. You create these amazing relationships. These people become brand ambassadors. You don't have to do anything, and they're out there telling the world about how brilliant you are. So really getting the right people that you get to work with is a massive benefit of saying no. And what I love best about getting the right clients is you never have to do any chasing for money, which is a big bugbear for so many small businesses, and which ultimately all of these things lead to that thing that we all want, profit. Okay, being able to say no to things that aren't good for us enables us to increase our profit. So we know the benefits, we know we're doing it, we know we want to stop doing it. The first thing we need to know is our ultimate goal. We talked briefly about our focus, and this is really important. To be able to learn how to say no, we need to know where it is we want to go to. So this is twofold. We firstly need to know what we personally need. Only yesterday, I was sat with a new client who wants to grow their business, and they jumped straight in the middle and they started telling me about this product and that, and we're going to do this and we want to go there. And I said, that's great. So can I come back a bit, please? I always feel like I need to say to the clients that, would a baby try to go to university? So why are you jumping in the middle? You have to know your personal goals, because if you don't know your personal goals, you could have the most amazing success at business, and you look around and discover your personal life is just terrific. You don't have someone to love, you don't have the home life, you don't have the social life, you don't have the hobbies, the time for personal development, for health. You really need to know your personal goals. It may sound so far removed from the ability to say no, but when you know who you are personally and the goals you want out of your life, this is really powerful stuff. So I would suggest you take a few moments when we finish to really understand what do I want personally? What are my big goals in life? The thing to remember here is, obviously the next point is, what do I want in my professional life? But I always say to people, it's great to have 1, 3, 5, 10-year goals. And I've got a client who's currently working on a 25-year goal, which is awesomely exciting. But it's all about having these big goals, but we also have to have what I call now goals, the day-to-day stuff. If you get to the end of the week and you feel like, yes, the goal for 2020 is well on its way, but I haven't done the basics that need to happen month in, month out, that again then impacts on our ability personally and professionally. So be aware of the now goals. So I want you to really think about, what are my personal goals, what are my professional goals, and what do I need to achieve now? When you know those three, you can start to see where this is leading. It enables us to understand when we can say no and when we need to say, oh yes, please, I really want to do this, okay? So be aware of these goals. We will be making sure that these slides go out to you afterwards, so you can go back and work on this at the speed that suits you as well, okay? So how do I stop saying yes to everything? Let's start with a story. I do like a nice little story. I was working with a person who worked in a large office as the one in the shop, and they said to me that they were at serious risk of losing their job. They'd been there for 10 years. They were on the supposed fast track to achieving more, going up the career ladder, but suddenly everything had faltered and they were not meeting their KPIs. They weren't doing very well at all. So they came to me for some coaching to try to find out what was at the bottom of this, and they seriously were worried that they were going to lose their job. There's an old saying about being sent to Coventry. I've never been to Coventry, but I'm sure it's not horrible. But in office culture, it happens where you're sent to Coventry, i.e. nobody talks to you. And this is how this person described it to me. No one talks to me. I'm I'm bullied in my workplace and I'm struggling in every sense. And what we actually discovered was the biggest issue was this person was a yes person. They said yes to everything. Everything anybody asked in a room full of 50 people, this person said yes to. The biggest problem for them was that they realised that other people just ignored their phones. At certain times of the week, when their deadlines were looming, they ignored their phones because they knew it would just divert to the next person's phone. This person couldn't do that. They were so corporately caring about that company and really didn't want to risk anyone thinking anything bad of that department and that company in any way. They picked up everyone's phone. So when ultimately 50 phones, where did they divert to? My client's phone. So this sounds like a really stupid idea, but what we did was we come up with ways so they couldn't hear the phone, and they said, well, that's ridiculous. Play with something like this. If you are really uncomfortable with saying no, you don't have to say the word. This person never, ever said no to anybody. But what they did was we come up with really silly ideas, and I said to them, well, what would you do with phones? And they said, well, if I had my way, I'd chuck them all out the window. I said, okay, let's chuck them all out the window. We didn't actually do this. What else would you do? And they said, well, I'd run over them with a tank, and then if they rang, I still couldn't hear them. I said, okay, that's great. We've got rid of the phones. They're gone. What about if someone comes up to your desk and you've got this deadline? And they imagined a force field around their desk. And they said, well, nothing can penetrate the force field. And they said, well, to be honest with you, didn't really need to spend all that energy chucking the phones out the window, did I? I could just leave the phone outside the force field. Now, this all sounds really far out and stupid, but by playing with it in an emotional and imaginative way, completely unrealistic, you're not going to get a tank, and you're certainly not going to throw phones out of a 30th floor window. But the point was they were able to see the damage that the saying no was having to them all the time. This is what this negative spiral is, which I'll go through in a moment. But they were then able to see how they could stop. And it's a simple thing, but they just imagined that the phone was outside a force field, so they didn't answer it. And then they didn't have to get into this negative spiral of, I must answer the phone, it damages the reputation of the department, it damages the company, I will be responsible, but then I end up not getting my jobs done, which means I don't reach my KPIs, which means I'm risking my career, which means I won't climb the career ladder. Gets them out of that negative spiral, stops them in their tracks, becomes aware that they're always answering everyone's phone call. From now on, when I hear the phone, when I've got a deadline for the next 2 hours, I do not answer the phone, which means that I can now get my work done, which means that I meet my KPIs, which means that, and you can see that they created a positive spiral. So to do that, we have to become aware of the negative. So what is the negative that we see happening? So play with this. You will be aware of examples where you're saying yes to everything, and play with how does that make you feel? What is it that happens? When we create a negative spiral, I ask my clients to do 3 things. I want them to look at what does saying yes lead you to doing? What does it lead to you feeling? And how does it lead to you acting? Okay, so that you can really understand what is the whole process that you end up going in. It's a negative process, and how do you end up going down and down and down? Once you really understand that, and hopefully you really experience pain on this, that way you're then able to take this in the opposite direction and go, okay, so what could be the first port of call that I do instead? The important thing to remember about a negative spiral is even if you find yourself slipping into it and you've said yes to somebody and think, oh, I really didn't want to say yes to this, and now I'm behind on my work, and now I've got that still to do, and I'm going to have to work late till then. At any time, any one of those blocks, so one of those arrows can be a diversion to get you out of the negative spiral. So you can find yourself right down deep again thinking, damn, how did this happen? And then you're able to say, okay, so I have done these things that I said I wouldn't do, but what is the course of the action I would like to take to get me back into my positive spiral? Again, if you remember back to the rules, it is the little things that really can have a big impact on us. So really play with this on silly little ideas that just come to you that make you go, actually, I'm not going to do that for you. Another example, in a large office, the leader was really struggling to lead. They said yes to everybody because they didn't want this company to fail, obviously. But what they did, it sounds ridiculous, they put fairy lights around the edge of their desk. And everyone started saying, what's with the fairy lights? And they just said, well, I just want you to remember that I want to sparkle too. And it was so silly a comment, but people started to notice this person as a person and not just their leader. They never had to say no. So these are very much about the person, the internal, how we interact and how we engage with people when things go wrong. A really good question I would love to get you into the habit of asking is when someone gives you a job or you find yourself going into this situation where you're saying yes to everything, is to say to yourself, if I say yes to this, then what am I saying no to? And if you really want to power that one up, if I say yes to this, what am I agreeing to say no to? So quite often you find that if I say yes to this client who always asks me to do extras, we're going to talk about can you trust us in a moment, then I'm agreeing that I won't get to work with the people that wouldn't do that, and I can charge them fairly and they do respect me better. So play with that one. If I say yes to this, what am I agreeing to say no to? So if I say yes to taking on a piece at work at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, then I'm agreeing that I don't want a Friday night, and eventually when I do start working, I'm going to be so exhausted, I'm probably going to fall asleep in front of the television. And so I'm going to be grumpy on Saturday and I'll end up overworking, and then what a great way to start Monday. Play with it, really explore how it makes you feel, because when you can get an emotional attachment to what's happening to you, you are far more likely to learn to say, no, I'm very sorry, that's not happening. So the really good one to remember about the ability to say no is, what do I think that person is thinking? So if I say no to somebody with lupus, you do have to say no. You do have to say that, unfortunately, I would love to come to your conference in Glasgow. However, I'm going to do it on the screen because that's more preferential to me being able to work next week. Now, I have lost possibly 2 pieces of work in 8 years of being ill. Do I want to work with those people? Possibly. Do I want to work with someone that doesn't respect the fact that I have long-term health problems? Not really, no. And we have to all learn to find our own voices, and these skills enable us to do this. But to do that, we do have to ask ourselves, what is it I think that person is thinking about me? And when we do that, we can start to see the internal dialogue that we have going on that says, well, if I don't do this, they won't work with us. If I don't do this, they might go somewhere else. If I don't do this, our competitors, they would do that. So it's about being aware of the language we use on ourselves. What's the internal dialogue that means that when we hear the word, can you do this? And we say no, say yes. What is it we believe is going on in our heads about what people think? And we'll explore this more in a moment. But in my experience, most of the time, when somebody thinks something is going on, when I make them really step up and actually go and hold a conversation, it's never something negative. It's normally that they're busy or this is going on, and yes, we do want to work with you, but can we arrange a meeting for the start of July because things are mega busy. But we have a habit of reverting to negative kind of conversations in our head. So be really aware of what you think people are thinking about you, because unfortunately it's quite often wrong. And one of the ways you pull that back together is with the head and the heart. So this is about what we know is going on and what we perceive is going on. If you want to learn to say no more, you need to listen to your head. The head has the facts. The facts are that you've achieved this, that you're really good at that you were the youngest to do so-and-so, that you've got the best of this, that you've got you've won a top 100 companies in the country. Those are the facts that you have, right? But what happens is when we have that fear of saying no to somebody, our heart jumps in. And our heart jumps in and says, but we don't want to lose out on this. This is our baby. This is our company. We don't want it to fail. We can't lose this customer. If we lose this customer, we'll lose that customer. And all this stuff that you have absolutely no proof on, but your heart is saying to you all this rubbish. What you need to do is become really aware of the facts. Ideally, you want an A4 piece of paper of facts, two sides, handwritten. Okay, so make it really powerful content of everything you know to be factual about you, your company, and your capabilities. I make everybody do this, even people that are really successful. I'll say to them, come on, put it down in writing. How brilliant. I call it the Why I'm Awesome document. 2 pages, why I'm awesome. And we all need one of these because we do have moments when we question, we second guess, but then when the heart starts giving us this negative voice and I can't say no because of this and I can't say no because of that, we then have the facts that say, well, hang on a sec, you don't actually have any proof of this, do you? And then that helps bridge the gap between the two so that the head can take over and the heart is made to shut up. The last thing is how to stop saying no. Boundaries. Boundaries is something that we're not very good at. I was speaking for a very large organisation last year, and email is a disaster for them. To find a point on it, everyone is pinging emails to everyone. Basically, everyone's covering their butt. Nobody wants to end up with the email on their desk on a Friday afternoon, to the point that this person was actually sending emails on a Sunday night because then they could be ahead of the game. Okay, we need to have boundaries because by having boundaries, we create respect. The thing about saying no is if you say no well, you don't actually need to say it, but you create these really winning relationships where other people respect you and you respect other people. And all of that heart stuff that says, don't say this and don't do that and this is going to work and that's not going to work, disappears. So have boundaries. I would absolutely love to talk to you about this. However, I have a deadline for Friday afternoon. So could we put that in for a conversation on Tuesday, please? I've got any time between this and this. We've not said no, we've just delayed the result. And that is a respectful way of doing it. I have learned the respectful ways that work for me. What I want to look at is how we create the right kind of communication that works for you. So for me, I can do it in a very conversational way, but other people, that is not going to sit very well for them. Excuse me one moment. One of the reasons it quite often doesn't sit well for us is because if you're quite a black and white person, as in, it's right or wrong, you're the kind of organisation you are, it means that it has to be like that. It could be law, accountancy, HR. There's no grey areas. Sometimes in those situations, it's not so easy to have a conversational style about it. So we're going to talk about how we communicate with people when we want to say no, but when we're not feeling comfortable to do so. But the boundaries that we create enable us to, the boundaries we create enable us to just lay it out nicely that this is how we work, this is what we expect. And as with children, with boundaries, children like boundaries, we actually like boundaries too. This person that I was talking about, what they did was they created a program, a little system that said that nobody was allowed to send an email on a Friday, so that the deadline was Thursday. If you wanted emails sent on a Friday, it couldn't happen. It had to wait till Monday. What did that change? Setting boundaries changed the ethos in the office. It created a better level of respect, and it enabled other people to go, well, actually, no, this isn't fair on that person. I know I need to get this off my desk, but not in a way that's disrespectful to other people. And this is what saying no enables you to do. So I know that this one is quite popular with a lot of people. When I first wrote Fight the Fear, I asked people if they knew what a can you truster was, and I was quite inundated with people saying, yes, I know what a can you truster is. Whether you work for somebody else's company or whether you run your own, whether you've got a small team or got a large team, or whether it's just you and your customers, we all have to deal with the can you trust us. So the can you trust us, they're not mean. That's the first thing to remember about can you trust us. They're not devious, they're not unkind, they're not evil. The can you truster is usually a really good people person. They're really good at communicating what result they want. Going back to the goals, personal, professional, now, this is what I want, and I need you to help me and make that happen. They're really good at communicating that. They tend to speak in a really nice way. They're great people, really good communication skills. So that's the first thing to remember about can you trusters. They're not doing it to annoy you. That's just, they're good at that, and it's something that has enabled their success to happen. The problem with a can you truster is that it greatly impacts on what you can get done. A really good quote from a business friend is, lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. And I know that makes a lot of people hyperventilate because we're thinking to ourselves, well, no, I have to be there for people. And we end up going back to that heart stuff about everyone else is more important than I am. So can you trusters aren't evil. They're just good at getting the results you want. Can you trusters tend to say things like, that's great, let's go ahead. So we've agreed on the figure. It's going to be done by so-and-so, fantastic. And you think, great, here we go. Then the phone goes or you get an email, oh, while you're doing that, can you trust? And because we want the contract, because we want to work for them, it's prestigious, this is going to be good for us, we end up saying yes. But what that does is it means they're getting extras for free, and all that time and energy and effort and creative brain space and everything else that you could have been putting into paying customers goes on someone that you're already working with. I have worked with people in a really powerful way dealing with can you trusters. Can you trusters also in our office places, and they have a habit of dumping stuff that they don't like doing or they're not very good at, and they say nice things. They're really good at flattery. As, you are so good at this. Is there any chance I could give this to you? Is that all right if I can just do that? Is that okay? You know, and you're like, oh, I'm good at this. Oh, thank you very much. The thing about helping a can you truster is it stops them from learning new skills. The problem with being a good people person is you could have lots of what is perceived confidence, but you could lack confidence in other areas. And if you constantly keep helping the can you truster, they aren't learning the new skills they need for their career. So in actual fact, while it feels like the easiest thing is to help the can you truster so you can get them off your back, it's not beneficial to you because, you know, that's somebody that needs to learn new skills. The other thing to remember about a can you truster is if they're doing it to you, then it's highly likely they're doing it to other people, other suppliers, other customers, other members of the team. So you need to be the person, have the confidence to stand up and say, do you know what? Let's look at better ways to do this because there's other people that could be suffering in your place of work out the hands of the can you truster. So you need to be able to be the confident one that says, let's look at how we fix this. And the other thing is, you know, can you trust us means they could be lacking at work and getting away with it. This is somebody that could need really vital skills for their success, but nobody is enabling them to get the support they need. So it's a really good opportunity to enable you to help other people. Knowing the facts about a can you truster, knowing how it impacts us is one thing, but how do we get them to stop being impacting on our ability to get on with what we want to do? The thing to remember about the can you truster is these little ideas here, they work really well in so many ways for us being able to say no to people. Again, it's not about having to say the word no. So it's about exploring what your natural style is. With most things where you need to be able to say no, it's about playing a bit of ping pong. They bat the question over to you and you bat an answer back that is polite, respectful, it's a win-win relationship, but it makes it their responsibility today. And that's what this does. These conversations enable you to put what was their problem back to them. And as we say, creates win-win conversations. So a good example is, I would have loved to help you. However, I've got a deadline today too. Next time, give me a call in the morning. We can work on this together, and we'll probably need to clear about 45 minutes. And then I know for future reference, you'll know how to do this. Now, what that does is says to that person, right, I've got to put in quite a lot of effort here to get the result I wanted. quite often you find when you give somebody an answer like that, they turn around and think to themselves, do you know, it'd probably be easier to do this myself, or to go and dump it on somebody else's lap. Another one is, you know, I used to hate doing this, but I found if I do these things, I can get this done really quickly. Let me teach you on this occasion. Okay, which then says, do you know what? Clearly this is an issue for you. I'm more than happy to give you a bit of my time, but obviously I expect you to learn from this and not turn up and expect me to train you on this again next month, because that's what this does. This very firmly but very kindly says, let's help, next time it's your problem. Okay, we're being really honest here. Another one I really like is when we say to someone, do you know what? This keeps happening for you, doesn't it? I'll tell you what, why don't we have a chat with the boss or a chat with the team, and let's see if it's an issue for other people and get some training sorted out, because, you know, we can't have you struggling each month. When it comes up with clients, I always like to say to people things like, I'm not saying no, it's just that's interesting. Let's explore what the budget was. Can you remember what your budget was, so we can make sure that we pack in as much as we possibly can for that. Basically, when you start talking about budget, it's about being professional, but still saying, I'm really sorry, but you've paid for X. This is what we're delivering. Obviously, I'm happy to deliver extra and do these things for you, but that's going outside this remit. And it's about having the confidence to communicate in a way that's very powerful. An example of this I had with a client a couple of years ago. They had what they thought was a dream contract with a very large organisation, but as their company had grown, they hadn't upped their rates. They kept going in for the same amount of money each month to this company, and when we compared it to what everyone else was paying for them, it was ridiculously low. And that when I challenged the client on this, and I said, well, you know, for what reason? They said, well, when you get there, I'm there anyway. I might as well just, didn't I? And I said, but would you do that for any of your other customers? And they said, well, no, of course not. We've got contracts and things. But when they were able to see in black and white how these people were getting away with just basically expecting far more than they should ever have got, they were able to see that this wasn't working for the company. Really scary situation, because this is worth a lot of money. It helps pay the bills and the salaries. I don't want to say no to these people. They didn't have to say no. What we did was we looked at the process they use, the natural style that they use with all their existing customers, how they take them over the process of what do you want to see happen out of our relationship. This is what we can do for that. Let's sign a contract. Let's get on with it. They were able to go back and have a conversation and say, look, obviously, as you've seen, you've worked with us for quite a few years, that our relationship has, I hope, grown, and we would like to ensure we're still doing our very best for you. So I'd like to get you in line with all our other customers and just get you on a signed agreement on what you expect. So we really are doing our very best for you. Still no reason to say no. It was an amazing outcome. They ended up not having to go down to the city so often. They were getting more money to do exactly the same work, and on top of that, because they laid out on a contract, these are the other things we could do. They actually were able to turn around and go, this company turned around and went, didn't know you did that, can you come in and do this? So saying no, as scary as it is really beneficial to your company. There's 15 minutes to go. Any questions, jump in at any time, okay? Jump in at any time. I want to make sure I finish on time and that I answer your questions as well. And if you want, I can jump over on Facebook and answer some for you. So strategies to help you feel confident to say no without saying no. Hopefully we'd already touched on some of these. So the power of words. Really keep your thoughts in check. So this means that when you think about how you feel about this person that constantly says, can you do this and can that happen? Or you have that kind of client that just whatever you do, they want more. Think about your thoughts. What are you choosing to think? So when that person is saying you've got this negative voice going on in your head, think to yourself, how can I twist this around? How can I get this in a place where I'm able to communicate powerfully that this is how we do business and this is what we do? Build your confidence. I would say that one of the reasons people don't say no is because they lack confidence. A good guide on whether you actually have confidence is if something horrifically bad went wrong today at work and you lost a really good contract, Would you go home devastated, thinking, this is it, this is over, we have to close the doors, I'll have to go and get some work for somebody else, and it's the whole world come to an end? If that happens, you don't have internal confidence. If, on the other hand, when something devastating happens, you're able to go, right, okay, what did we learn from this? What have we done wrong? Where do we need to improve? But you go into that form of communication rather than end of the world, then you've got an internal level of confidence. If what someone says to you, if the outfit you're wearing, if the weather, all of these things, if you think to yourself, you're in a great mood today, why wasn't I yesterday? You lack internal confidence. So build your internal confidence, and by doing that, you have the ability to say no more confidently. Don't create blame. Anytime you wish to say no, do not have any blame. A good example of this is the next point. Get rid of the word why. If you say to, a perfect example is if you've got children or you know teenagers, if you say to them, why didn't you do that? It has a connotation, it creates guilt, it makes the other person back off and get really on the offensive instantly. On the other hand, if you say, what's the reasons why this hasn't happened? There is no guilt, there is no just judging on that comment. It is just we need to understand what happened here. Can you help me explore that? And that enables you to keep your emotions in check, be aware that you're not creating blame, and stops other people from getting their hackles up straight away. Play the repercussions game. The repercussions game is brilliant because what happens is when you're frightened of saying no and you think, how am I going to say no? Just play with what's going on in your head. Quite often in my client's head, they're going, what if they say this? And what if that happens? And then what if that happens? Usually most of what they're saying in the repercussions game is completely unjustified. But if you play the repercussions game and understand what it is you expect to see happen, what you assume, which is usually untrue, you're able to make sure that the way you're communicating gets the message across without damage those things and making those things happen. If you really want to play the repercussions game well, play it in a way, play it to destruction. So you play it in a way that says, well, what if they don't buy from me? And what if I lose all my customers? And what if I end up on news at 10 and as the worst businesswoman ever on the planet? And really be stupid about it, because when we do that, we're able to see, do you know what? Most of the things I'm worried about that's going to happen here aren't going to happen. How does everyone else's yes impact on your success? Which is another version of the question we asked earlier. If I keep saying yes, what am I agreeing to say no to? And ask yourself, does this fit? If you go back to your goals, does saying yes to this person or this opportunity or this customer or this whoever, does this fit where I'm looking to go, what I'm looking to achieve? If you really lack confidence in saying no to people, look at who does say it really well, who is good at getting the results they want. How do they act? What do they say? What's their body language like? Do they make lots of eye contact? Do they hide behind email? If you're hiding behind email with your nose, you need to stop it. We need to be able to pick up the phone and have a confident, professional conversation that says, this looks like a great opportunity, however, this is where we're at the moment, it's just not going to fit. Can we have a conversation here about how we could make this work, maybe later in the year? So ask yourself, does this fit? And if I don't feel confident, who represents confidence in doing this? And notice your progress. Look, the first time you say no to someone, you're going to hyperventilate and you're going to be thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Right? Notice how you feel about it. Did you get the result you want? Did you still end up taking action and doing what the other person did? If you did, where in the conversation did you lose it? What could you do so that you are able to move forward next time? This is a process, and it's about learning that process so you get better at it. 2 further readings that I will make sure I send to WeConnect is the Catherine Wheel effect and the shiny thing syndrome. So these are 2 things where I want you to really think about. If you're doing lots and lots and lots of things, you don't stay focused. So it's about, how do I notice the Catherine Wheel effect? And quite often the lack of no's creates the Catherine Wheel effect. And how do I get back to the saying no so I get the result I want? And the shiny thing syndrome. We say yes to everything. That looks good. That's a great opportunity. Let's do that and let's do that. And that then also creates this shiny thing syndrome where we flip from one thing to another again, which means we lose our focus. I'll make sure if you want additional reading, those are available to you too. So lastly, what do I want to say yes to? What do I want to be saying yes to? What opportunities do you want? Who in the office would you love to be working with? Who in the network that you work in would you like to work with? What would you be saying to them? Really process that, understand it. Bit of imagination, bit of a daydream as you're driving along. Really begin to think about what is it I want to say no to, so I can say yes to the things I really want to be saying yes to. Lastly, just a little extra support, ditch the jargon. If you're looking to get people on side, creating win-win relationships, you need to ditch your jargon so that you're able to communicate in a really no-nonsense, common language way. Don't be salesy. Don't make it about, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And, just ditch the sales. Be honest. Be real. People connect with that. People love that level of passion. And then you get away with saying no for things. And you can say yes later if you want to. Make sure, as we've mentioned, that you're using your body language. Don't use the word but. No, get rid of it. And is quite useful, or just pause. Halfway through, when you were going to say but, pause, and then say what do we want to say instead. But is another thing that creates the hackles. And don't get manipulated. Be aware of the manipulation happening and work out how do I go back. If you do the negative spiral, you'll be able to see when the manipulation starts and the process you need to take to come back to it. And I think that is us. So that's the book if you want further learning and support. I have got a few minutes for questions. As if it was a real coaching session, I would love to know, what is your plan of action? From what you've listened to today, what is it you're going to go away and do? Are you going to go away and think about your goals? Are you going to go away and think about how you're impacted on? Please, Mandie, could you please share some thoughts about the proactive no's that aren't responding to an opportunity but stopping something, e.g. removing someone from a job? Can you expand on that? Could you please share some thoughts about the practice? No.
Sarah, I've taken you off mute, so you should be able to.
Oh, excellent. Yes, go for it, Sarah.
Hi, I hope my Wi-Fi allows it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Absolutely.
So it's basically, for me, quite a challenge is going to my team and removing things from them that they perhaps wanted to do but aren't doing so well at. Or even, right now on a domestic level, we've got a cleaner who's not doing a great job, and I struggle to actually say, well, my husband would happily say, right, boot her out. I struggle with that. So that's what I meant.
Okay, so let's look at going back over the slides. If you consider, first of all, how do you feel about that and what's going on internally? What do you think your team's going to say? How do you think your team is going to feel? Start to understand what emotions you've got happening there, because under everything is our emotions, and our emotions impact on our thoughts, and our thoughts impact on our actions. So that's the first thing, is to become more aware of what you think people are thinking about what you've got to say. Secondly, with those things, I would say that's very much about boundaries. So it's about saying to the team, the first instance, and the cleaner, okay, so these are the things that we're expecting to see happen here. I'm noticing that certain aspects aren't happening. What do we think we should be doing about that? It depends on who you are. Are you someone that's very open thinking and you like to explore everyone's ideas before you come up with a plan, like a converse thinker? Or are you a diverse thinker? Or are you a converse thinker? And you want it to be, look, guys, this is what needs to happen. It's not happening. I need that to happen. Neither one of them needs to be a no. It just needs to be, if you start with the boundaries of, I'm noticing these things aren't happening, we need to look at ways that we ensure it does happen. Coaching session with your team is really good because you can sit in an hour. This is what I expect to be seen happening. Right, let's revisit this in 1 week's time. And then if you're finding, it could be that you feel is the situation, and you know what, this person just can't do it. You then come back and say, well, we've got a number of choices, and really list the choices. Is it the case that I have to take responsibility for this? Is it I haven't given you the right leadership training so that you're able to do this? Is it a case that we need training? Is this an issue that somebody else is facing? Does that help, Sarah?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, but if you start there, that way when it still isn't right, you've then got the parameters to turn around and say, do you know we had this conversation last Thursday? Or do you know what, we seem to still be in the same place? We need to really understand how how we get this working right, because I'm not in a position to take on more responsibility. And that way, the really important thing to remember is when you're having a conversation like that, you need to learn when to stop talking. Just let the other person do the talking. And normally what happens is they end up talking, because we really, humans don't like space and silence. So other people will fill it, especially if they're feeling guilty, they're not doing a good enough job. And then they fill the space, and then you have the evidence you need to get the result you then want, still without saying no.
Thank you. Mandie, I've got a question for you. When you were talking about the goals, kind of like immediate goals, and then the 1, 3, 5, and 25-year goals, do you have anywhere, or maybe it's in the book, questions that you can ask yourself to help you work out what your goals are?
The best tool I have ever used, and I use it on myself for my personal goals, my professional goals, everything, is to start with the values exercise. It's in chapter 1 of my book. It's going to take you between, if I'm doing it with a client, it takes an hour. And a values exercise gets you to list 1 to 10 the most important things to you. And you list them out, and then you use the process that I talk about in the book. I can do additional something somewhere for you, because I know we're getting short on time. And what that does is we think we know what our top values are, and then that impacts on our goals. But quite often we get really cool eureka moments when we do the values exercise, because we discovered that what we thought was a top priority really isn't that important. Quite often I'll have someone tell me that money's important, holidays, and in actual fact, it's only number 7 and number 8, and up at number 1 is respect and other things. And so by doing that, lovely, thanks for watching, Sarah. So by doing that, you become more aware of your core values, and then your core values help write your goals, because they're coming from, the fundamental of who you actually are.
Yeah, interesting. I always think for me individually, I'm always like, I don't even know what questions to ask to kind of get to the information that I'm looking for.
Yeah, so if you ask the values question, you can then use the same thing to the same values exercise to then play with, well, what do I love about my work? And then you can really start to hone in on who I am and what am I doing and why am I doing it, and that really does help write goals really quickly.
Yeah, and I also, one of the other things that definitely resonated with me was about the practice. In the first few times you kind of say no, or it could feel really uncomfortable, but it's the same as anything that, I think it's the same as for women in a corporate world when they're asking for a pay rise or different things like that. The first time you do it can feel really awkward, but actually keep doing it, because it's so important, and all of the different things that you've covered around just claiming some of that time back in your life, but also creating your boundaries, as you said, around making people aware that you're not a limit.
And ultimately, if we create boundaries in our own professional lives, we then become role models for other people, because they look and think, hang on a sec, how come they've had time to go for a walk and read a book? How's that happened? What are they doing? And then we become role models for other people, and then we're reducing stress in the workplace for other people as well. So it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, brilliant. Thank you so much. We are pretty much on just over the hour. Mandie, this has been great. We're going to send a follow-up round, and certainly if there's other resources that you'd like us to include, and we can share another link to the book as well. But thank you so much. You covered so much, and as so much of this, as you said, it's mindset and just what you're thinking and how you're feeling and responding to things. This has been super helpful, and I know for so many people that saying no, but it's a positive. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's a positive.
Do you know what, Maggie? It's amazing how people will come to me with these amazingly huge goals for their business and their career, and it always comes back to the first thing we have to work on is what's going on in your head and how is it impacting on the results you're getting. It's incredible. So yeah, getting that in check, really understanding your emotional intelligence and who you are has massive repercussions for your success.
Yeah, positively. Brilliant. Mandie, thank you so much. This has been great. Please do check out Mandie's website. She's got loads of different brilliant resources on there, and absolutely the book. And we'll share, obviously our contact details are on the screen, but we'll share them afterwards. And please do get in touch and follow up. But Mandie, thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you to everybody who's dialed in live. We will be sharing the recording, and if you're listening back this at another point in time, definitely feel free to get in touch with Mandie. She'd love to hear from you. So Mandie, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Mandie.
Bye.
Thanks.